Young Scrooge, A Very Scary Christmas Story by R.L. Stine. Part 5. Chapter 27. So the robot ghost of the future really did plan to leave me here forever. He really had given up on me. But that wasn't fair. Not fair at all. I stumbled back. I wanted to get away from the terrifying gravestone, but something held me there. Something stopped me from turning around and running. I heard a whisper. It seemed to come from under the open grave. "Calm down." No, I imagined that. In my fright, my brain was playing tricks on me. "Calm down." "No," I cried out loud. "I'm not hearing this. Stop. I don't hear it." "Calm down, Scroogeman." And then I saw a dim flash of movement, just a blur of gray at the bottom of the hole. I couldn't help myself. I was too terrified to run. Too terrified to move, but I leaned forward, leaned over the grave to see what was moving down there. I opened my mouth to scream when I saw them, but no sound came out. I stared down at the kids in the grave. They were crowded in there, at least a dozen of them, all staring up at me. I recognized a few of them from inside the school. I saw the girl with the perfect hair, and the big guy with the bird eyes, the guy I gave a dancing lesson. I tried to choke out another scream, but I couldn't catch my breath. They were huddled in my grave, and I could see right through them. They were transparent, all in shades of gray. No color. No color, because they were dead. And now they raised their arms. All at once they shot their arms up out of the hole, hands wrapped around my feet. Two guys floated up and wrapped their arms around my waist. "No!" I finally found my voice, and a howl of horror burst from my throat. "No, let go of me!" But they started to tug me down into the grave. A hum of excitement rose from down in the hole. They were all humming a single note, humming me to my grave. I struggled with all my strength, but the hands tightened around my ankles with surprising strength, and more hands wrapped around my legs and waist. The humming grew louder as the hands pulled and my shoes scraped the dirt at the edge of the hole. Then I started to sink. They were lowering me into the grave, humming, eyes wide, staring without blinking, eyes wide and blank as they pulled me down. I opened my mouth and screamed again, in a pleading, cracked voice I didn't recognize. "No, please, please, I'm not dead. I don't want to be a zombie. Please let me go." Chapter 28. As I started to slide down the dirt, down the front of the grave, I swung my body hard. I heard a ripping sound. One of the arms holding my waist fell off. The arm ripped off at the shoulder and fell to the dirt. I kicked at the hands gripping my shoes. Kicked hard. Again. Again. The hands went flying. I frantically ripped away arms and hands. The humming stopped. The only sound now was the whistle of the wind through the graves and the squawk of the vultures circling overhead. With a groan, I spun around and grabbed the soft dirt at the side of the grave with both hands. I don't know where I found the strength. I guess it came from my total terror. I scrambled up to the surface, my shoes kicking and sliding on the steep side of the grave. I climbed up to the ground and glanced back down. The dead kids were bent over, recovering their hands and arms. Some kids had picked up the wrong hands and were passing them to their owners. I forced myself to turn away, and sucking in a deep, shuddering breath, I started to run. I didn't know where to run. I just knew I had to get away from the dead kids and their frightening school as fast as I could. My shoes pounded the grass. I watched the red sun lowering itself behind a row of tall, leafy trees ahead of me. I passed wide grassy lots, and then came to a block of small, red brick houses. I didn't stop. My head ached and my chest burned, but I kept running, and I didn't look back. Where was I? Was I really in the future? In the year 2095? Was there any way I'd ever find my way back to my home? To my mom and brother? Back in the time I belonged? I tried to force these questions from my mind as I ran. I wanted to concentrate on getting as far away from the dead school as I could. Would the ghost of Christmas future find me and drag me back there? That was another question I didn't want to think about. I turned a corner and found myself on a block of larger houses, all very neat, with closely trimmed lawns and shrubs, and tall hedges along the curb. I saw kids playing with some kind of radio-controlled flying drone. It flew very high, and they chased after it, arms outstretched to catch it. At the end of the block, a man was showing a little girl how to ride a bike, running alongside her as she pedaled. Normal life. For a moment, I thought maybe I had run back to my time. but the bike had some kind of jets on the back, and the cars in the driveways were all silver and shaped like rocket ships. Suddenly, I had an idea. I stopped running. My legs felt as if they weighed 1,000 pounds each. My chest felt about to explode. Some kids were soaring toward me on some kind of power skates. I ducked behind a tall shrub, lowered my hands to my knees, and struggled to catch my breath. My idea would have to wait till tonight, I decided. It was a crazy idea, an impossible idea, but I couldn't have been more desperate. I had come so close to death. I had just escaped from my own grave. I knew I had to try anything to get away from here. I never cry. I never cried even when I was a baby. I told you before, I'm just not that kind of guy who likes to cry. But every time I thought about Charlie and my mom, celebrating Christmas without me, every time I thought about how far away they were, and how I probably would never see them again, my eyes watered and my chin started to quiver, and I had to grit my teeth and force myself not to give in, not to cry. Hiding behind the tall shrub, I thought hard about a lot of things. I never realized how important Mom and Charlie were to me. I just never thought about that. And I never realized how much I really wanted friends. I wanted Lucy Copperfield and Davy Pittman and Josh Cratchit to be my friends. I wanted them to like me, not hate me. If I ever get back home, I'll never make fun of Josh's stutter again, I told myself. And I'll never mess up Lucy's hair or give Davy a dancing lesson. I was sincere. I wasn't just saying that. I was willing to change my whole personality, just to get back. I peered around the bush and watched the house at the top of the lawn. Through the front window, I could see a large video screen. It appeared to stretch over a whole wall. In the glare of the screen, I saw a boy and a girl sitting on opposite ends of a shiny silver couch. They were watching some kind of animated show with strange animal warriors fighting with laser weapons. I stuck my head out a little farther. Gazing into the window, I saw a woman pull the two kids from the couch. The screen went blank. I guessed it was the family dinner time. I pulled back behind the bush and sat down on the lawn. It wasn't grass. It was some kind of springy rubber stuff I'd never seen before. I realized the bush wasn't real either. It was made of that same rubbery stuff. The lawn and bushes of the future? I settled my back against the bush and concentrated on my plan. I ignored my rumbling stomach. When was the last time I had eaten? I knew I couldn't start until the family had gone to bed. That would be hours from now. But the wait would be worth it, if my idea worked. I yawned. I suddenly felt exhausted. I guess it was all the fright. The dead kids. The open grave. Running for my life. That would make anyone tired. I shut my eyes and immediately fell asleep. When I woke up, it was dark out. No moon or stars in the sky. I peered down the street. No one around. No cars, or whatever they drove in Pt.5, passing by. The lights were off in most of the houses I could see. I didn't know what time it was, but I guessed it was pretty late. I reached my arms above my head and tried to stretch the stiffness from my back. I pulled myself onto my knees and peered up at the house. The big video screen was blank. The lights were all off. Time for me to make my move. Was I really doing this? Was I really breaking into this house? Yes. I found a half-open window on the side wall. I pulled myself up onto the window ledge and slowly, carefully slid the window up, wide enough for me to climb inside. Silently, I lowered myself into the house. My shoes made a soft thud on a deep, shaggy carpet. I was at the back of the living room. The big video screen stood to my left. Turning right, I saw the family Christmas tree, metallic silver, glistening even in the dark. The house smelled of roast chicken. My stomach grumbled again. I thought of creeping into the kitchen and helping myself to a little dinner. But I didn't want to delay. I was eager to see if I stood any chance at all of my plan working. My eyes slowly adjusted to the darkness. The living room was filled with sleek, shiny furniture. It all gleamed like metal, even in the dim light. I saw two dark doorways against the far wall. I took a few careful steps toward them. I wanted to stay away from the family bedrooms where they were all sleeping. I stood there trying to decide which hallway to try. My heart was pounding hard. I could feel the blood pulsing at my temples. I suddenly realized this was a terrible idea. Frightening thoughts whirred through my brain. What if they wake up? What if they think I'm a burglar? What if they have some kind of gun and shoot me before I have a chance to explain? And how could I ever explain this? The plan seemed worth a try when it first came to me. After all, my ghost troubles had all started in a closet. I was in the attic closet in my house where all the Christmas presents for Charlie and me were hidden. The ghost of Christmas passed. That's what he called himself. He appeared in the closet and took me away, took me to the past of that horrible school. So here's what I thought. Maybe a closet was the way to travel back home. Maybe if I hid in a closet I didn't belong in, I would be carried away again, carried back to my time and to my mom and little brother. Standing there in the dark house staring at the two hallways, I knew it was a crazy idea. Totally insane. Doomed to failure. But I didn't have any other ideas. I was alone and afraid and lost. So can you blame me? I had to try the closet idea. I crept into the hall to the left. I was walking on tiptoe, one step at a time, holding my breath, trying not to make a sound. I squinted down the long hall, searching for a closet door. Suddenly, a door opened right behind me. I slammed my hand over my mouth to keep from crying out. I pressed myself as tightly against the wall as I could and watched as a short figure stepped out into the hallway. I recognized him. The boy I had seen through the front window. The boy watching the animated film on the big screen. I started to choke. I felt as if my heart had leapt into my mouth. I held my breath and pressed myself into the deep shadow of the wall. Please don't see me. Please don't see me. The boy turned away from me and walked toward the kitchen. His bare feet slapped the hard floor. A few seconds later, I heard water running. He was getting a drink in the kitchen. I knew he'd be back in the hall in a few seconds, and this time he'd definitely see me, because he'd be facing me. I fought off the wave of panic that froze my body, spun away from the wall, darted to the next door, and pulled it open. Chapter 29. I stared into the solid blackness. Was this a closet? I couldn't see for sure, but I had no choice. I ducked inside and pulled the door shut behind me. Gasping for breath, my chest heaving up and down, I stood there for a long moment, just trying to get myself together. Hey, you know I'm not a scaredy cat. I'm a pretty bold guy, but I wasn't cut out to be a burglar. I had no idea what they did to people who broke into houses in the future, but it couldn't be good. Finally, I started to breathe normally. My heart slid back down to my chest. I fumbled on the wall and found a light switch. I clicked it on, and a pale yellow ceiling light flashed on. I blinked. The light hurt my eyes. I gazed around. Yes, I was in a long, narrow closet. It was a supply closet. Against the back wall, I saw colorful boxes and bottles of cleaning supplies. The closet floor was cluttered with tools and appliances. I couldn't recognize most of them. Was that a vacuum cleaner? It looked like a small car. Pressing my ear against the closet door, I heard the slap of the boy's bare feet in the hall. I heard him walk back into his room and click the door shut. Good. I was all alone now. Alone in a closet. I dropped to the floor, sat down, put my hands on my knees, and pressed my back against the closet wall. Now what? What do I do? How do I summon a ghost to take me home? I suddenly felt stupid. I'm sitting in a closet in a house I don't belong in, and I don't have a clue. Was there some way to call a ghost? Was there any chance at all that this closet could lead me back to my closet at home? Even 1,000,000 to 1 chance? I had to try it. I decided to shut my eyes and wish. Yes, wish for a Christmas ghost to carry me back home. Sometimes wishes come true, don't they? I shut my eyes and hugged my knees. I thought about the 3 ghosts and how they wanted to teach me lessons, how they wanted me to change. Well, I will change, I told myself. I can be kind, and I can be generous, and I can really mean it, not just think it. Those were my thoughts, sitting there so frightened and so desperate in that closet. I kept my eyes shut and my head down, and I wished, and wished, and silently wished, and nothing happened. Chapter 30. Nothing happened for about 10 minutes, and then I felt a puff of cold air. I opened my eyes in time to see the closet fill with a purple light. The light grew brighter, brighter, until I had to shield my eyes. The closet began to shake. The shelves rattled. The bottles and boxes tilted and fell. Like an earthquake, the floor rose up in a roar, then fell. I was tossed forward onto my stomach, and as I scrambled to stand up, the floor beneath me vanished. The whole closet disappeared, and I was floating on a thick purple carpet of air. I toppled over and over as I flew, tossed one way, then the other, as if caught in an invisible swirling tornado. Was that me screaming? Yes, my mouth was open in an endless howl of horror. I was floating out of control, swirling and swerving, climbing and dipping. My arms flailed helplessly at my sides. My feet thrashed the air, and all I could see was the deep violet color, so thick I could almost taste it. How long did I fly like that? How long did I scream? My throat was raw and throbbing. My face felt burned from the wind. I landed hard, landed in a heap. My elbows banged a solid wood floor. My head bumped a wall, and pain shot down my whole body. I forced myself to stand up. My mouth hung open. I could still hear the roar of the purple wind in my ears. Sucking in air, I glanced around. I knew instantly where I was. I was home. I gazed at the stack of Christmas presents, their wrapping all ripped and ruined. I'm back in the attic closet, I told myself. Yes, everything's still here, just as I left it. Charlie's presents ripped open, my presents strewn on the floor where I left them. I'm back. It worked. It worked, I cried, pumping my fist in the air. I lowered my shoulder and shoved open the closet door. I burst into the attic. I darted to the stairs and flew down them 2 at a time. Was this the happiest moment of my life? You don't have to ask. Home. Back home. Here I was. It even smelled like home. I stumbled and nearly fell over as I reached the bottom of the stairs. I was so eager to see Mom and Charlie. I felt as if my whole body was about to burst, like a balloon. Mom, I'm home, I screamed breathlessly. Mom? Charlie? My shoes thudded down the hall as I ran shouting all the way. I passed the kitchen. I saw an uneaten roast turkey on a platter on the counter, several other dishes of delicious-looking food. Mom? Charlie? They weren't in the kitchen. I turned and darted into the front hallway. Yes, I saw them. I saw them in the living room. Charlie was sprawled on his stomach on the floor, a book in his hands. Mom sat on the tall green armchair, tapping her fingers on the chair arms, a pile of knitting on her lap. Hey, it's me. Were you worried about me? Mom, Charlie, here I am. Why didn't they turn around? I was screaming at the top of my lungs. Why didn't they hear me? Charlie turned the page of the book he was reading. He didn't look up. Mom picked up her knitting needles and said something to him. I couldn't hear her. Charlie nodded. Hey, here I am, I shouted. Mom, Charlie, I'm home. They didn't turn around. A sob escaped my throat. This was too weird. I was standing in the wide entryway to the living room. I raised my arms, eager to hug Mom. I took a step toward her and gasped in shock. Something held me back. I tried to move forward again, but something, an invisible wall, kept me from Mom and Charlie. Something pushed me back, blocked my way into the living room. Mom? Charlie? My cry came out shrill and trembling. Help me, please. I'm here. Can't you see me? Charlie yawned and turned another page in his book. Mom settled back in her chair and started to knit. Chapter 31. I lowered my shoulder and pushed it against the invisible barrier. I couldn't budge it. I strained and struggled, pushing the invisible wall with all my might. That won't do you any good, Scroogeman, a voice said. I spun around and gasped again. I stared at the ghost of Christmas present. I stared at his bulby nose and red cheeks, his ringlets of curly orange hair beneath his tall, shiny black top hat. He wore the same red bow tie and still had a matching red flower in the lapel of his checkered jacket. Why not? I cried. Why can't they see me or hear me? Why can't I go to them? You cannot go back to your life, Scrooge, the ghost said, shaking his head. Not until you prove you are ready. I am ready. I've changed. I'm a totally new person. I'm kind now. I'm generous. I'm going to be nice to everyone. You have to let me back to my family. I miss them so much. The ghost frowned at me. We Christmas ghosts don't do this for our health, Scroogeman. We took you away because you were ruining Christmas for everyone. I know, but that's the past, I insisted. That's before I learned what my friends really think of me, before I learned how horrible I was. You have to prove it, he said. I can't just take your word for it. You have to prove that you've changed. No problem. I will prove it. I want to. I want to show everyone that I'm a new Rick Scroogeman. He fiddled with his bow tie. Well, go ahead. Show me that you have changed, and I'll send you back to your family in time for Christmas. And my birthday, I said. Don't forget my birthday. But he had vanished once again. Ghosts have a habit of disappearing while you're still talking to them. It's very rude, but I wasn't about to complain. The aroma of the roast turkey filled my nostrils. I saw Mom and Charlie in the next room, so close and yet so far away. Once again, I had a sudden urge to cry. Can you imagine? That's how desperate I was to get back, to be with Mom and Charlie and have a real Christmas. I suddenly had a plan. I knew just what I wanted to do. I started with Lucy Copperfield. I walked through the tall snowdrifts to her house in the next block. Was the ghost of Christmas Present watching me? I didn't care. I didn't need him there. I knew what I had to do. I kicked snow off my shoes as I stepped onto Lucy's front stoop. I rang the doorbell. After a few seconds, a voice shouted, "Go away!" It was Lucy. "I just came to talk to you," I shouted through the door. "Go away, Rick," she repeated. The door opened a crack. I could see one of her eyes peering out at me. "I know what you're going to do," she said. "You're going to smear my glasses with your thumbs. Then you're going to mess up my hair." "No, no way," I said. "Open the door, Lucy. I came to wish you a Merry Christmas." She started to laugh. "I heard your essay in Miss Stewart's class, remember? Bah humbug. Why I hate Christmas. Everyone heard what you wrote, Rick." "No, that was a long time ago," I said. "I was wrong. That essay was wrong. I've changed, Lucy. And beat it, Rick," she snapped. "I'm working on an art project and I don't want it to dry." "I can help you with it," I said. "I'm a good artist. Let me help you, please." She laughed at me again. "I can help you with your homework," I said. "Would you like that? Or I could walk Hank for you. I know you hate walking your dog in the snow. Let me walk Hank." "Stop trying to trick me, Rick," she said. "Would you like to bake cookies together?" I said. "We could have fun making Christmas cookies. Seriously. And you'll smear cookie dough in my face?" "No, no way. We can make little stars and little Christmas trees and—" Bang! She slammed the door hard in my face. I nearly toppled off the stoop. "Lucy! Come back! I just want to be your friend." Silence. She didn't return. I sighed and slumped away. Josh Cratchit lived in a tiny brick house 2 blocks away. I trudged through the snow and rang his bell. His mom opened the door. She seemed very surprised to see me. I stepped inside. They had a scrawny Christmas tree in one corner. It was nearly bare. I didn't see any presents under the tree. Josh's baby brother was wailing his head off in a high chair. Josh's twin sisters were trying to quiet the baby. "Josh is in his room," his mom said, pointing to the door. "Does he know you're coming over?" "It's a surprise," I said. I poked my head into Josh's room. "Merry Christmas," I said, flashing him a friendly smile. Don't hurt me," he cried. He jumped up from behind his laptop and backed away, holding both arms in front of him like a shield. "Please, Rick, don't hurt me." "I just came over to say hi to a good friend," I said. I raised my hand and stepped toward him. "Give me 5, friend." No, please," he begged. "Please don't punch me in the stomach, or give me a wedgie, or pull my shirt out of my jeans and twist my arm behind my back till it cracks." I shook my head. Would I do something like that? That was the old Rick Scroogeman. Now I'm different. I came over to be your friend. I pointed. "Look, your sneakers are untied. Let me tie them for you. And I see that pile of laundry on the floor. Let me do your laundry for you, okay? I can do all your chores, Josh, like a real friend. Wouldn't that be awesome?" Go away," Josh replied. He backed all the way against the wall. His eyes were wide with fright. "Please, Rick, give me a break. I know you're going to hurt me. Go away." I suddenly had a heavy feeling of dread in the pit of my stomach. No one believed that I had changed. Did this mean I'd never be able to return to my family? My shoulders slumped in defeat. I crept out of the house. I could still hear Josh's baby brother crying. The sun had disappeared behind the heavy clouds. The air had become cold and raw. Where should I try next? I didn't have a clue. And then suddenly, I had a great idea. Chapter 32. I hurried home. My brain was spinning. My plan had to work. I had to get back to Mom and Charlie. I was desperate to be home with them for Christmas. I didn't want to think about what would happen to me if I failed again. Mom and Charlie were in the kitchen. Mom was setting the kitchen table. Charlie was chewing on a fruit roll-up, his favorite kind of fruit. I tried to call to them and step into the kitchen, but the invisible wall blocked my way. They couldn't hear or see me. A wave of sadness swept over me. I fought it off. I still had hope. I knew I had one more chance. I climbed the steep steps to the attic and made my way quickly to the closet. I clicked on the light. The presents I had greedily unwrapped were strewn on the closet floor. I searched frantically through the presents until I found the ones I wanted to give away. I struggled to rewrap them as best I could. Then I hurried back out of the house, into the snow and biting cold air and the cloudy charcoal sky. Back on Lucy's stoop, my finger trembled as I rang the bell. "Go away!" I heard her angry shout inside the house. "I told you to beat it, Scroogeman." But, I sputtered. "Lucy, I brought you 2 presents." I held my breath. Would she open the door? Yes. She pulled it open halfway and eyed the packages in my hand suspiciously. "Is this one of your tricks?" I pushed the 2 presents into her hands. "No. Merry Christmas, Lucy. These are for you. I picked them out special. I hope you like them." She still had that suspicious look on her face. She opened the first one. "What is this?" she demanded. "Handkerchiefs?" I nodded. "They're for wiping your glasses clean whenever I smear them with my thumbs," I said. That brought a smile to her face. "Seriously?" "Yes," I said. "Open the other present." She opened it and stared at the present I'd given her. "Huh? A hairbrush? And that's for when I mess up your hair," I said. "You'll always be ready to brush it again." Lucy laughed. "That's awesome. Great gifts, Rick. At least I know they'll come in handy." Her expression changed. "Sorry I didn't get you a present." "No problem," I replied. "I just want you to be my friend." I stared at her. "Will you be my friend?" A long pause. Finally, she said, "Okay, we can give it a try." She stepped back. "Do you want to come in? We could work on my art project together." "Maybe later," I said. "That would be awesome, but I have another present to give out. See you later." As I made my way down her snowy front yard, my heart started to pound a little harder. This next one was going to be harder. A lot harder. Chapter 33. A few minutes later, I had stepped up to Josh Cratchit's house. The baby had stopped crying, but now Josh's twin sisters were fighting, screaming and yelling, something about which one of them broke an American Girl doll. Josh lives in a very noisy house. I understood why he liked to shut himself up in his room. When I poked my head into his room, he jumped up again. His face went pale, and he staggered back to the wall. What do you want?" he stammered, his eyes wide with fear. I handed him the present I'd brought from my closet. "Here," I said. "This is for you, Josh. Merry Christmas." He eyed me suspiciously, the same expression Lucy had. He unwrapped the present and stared at it. "A songbook? A Christmas Carol songbook?" I nodded. "Yes, for you." But why?" he demanded. "A few weeks ago, I saw this show on Nickelodeon. It was about kids who stutter, and one kid said he stuttered when he talked, but he never stuttered when he sang, and I thought maybe you'd like to try it. Maybe singing will help you." Josh's mouth dropped open. He gaped at me wide-eyed. "Rick, what a nice gift," he said. "You really wanted to help me?" "Yes," I said. "And Josh, I promise I'll never make fun of you again." He stared at me, trying to figure out if I was serious. "Let's try it," I said. I took the book from his hands and opened it to the first song, Silent Night. Josh hesitated. I don't know. Come on, we'll sing it together," I said. I held the book between us and started to sing. We both sang Silent Night, and it sounded pretty good. And Josh didn't stutter. Not once. "Let's try another one," I said. I turned the page, and we sang It Came Upon the Midnight Clear. And again, Josh didn't stutter once. When we finished the song, he had tears in his eyes. He shook hands with me. He actually shook hands. "Rick, this is the nicest present I ever got," he said. "I hope that means we can be friends," I said. He shook my hand again. Friends. I felt so good as I left Josh's house. I hopped down the porch stairs and did a cartwheel in the snow. When I stood up, the ghost of Christmas present was standing there. He flashed me a thumbs up. Go home, Scroogeman," he said. "It's almost Christmas." I ran into the kitchen, wrapped my arms around Mom's waist, and hugged her tight. I'm home. I'm home, Mom, I choked out. I kissed her cheek. I hugged her again. Then I gave Charlie a long, tight hug. My throat felt choked with emotion. I couldn't speak. Couldn't make a sound. Rick, where have you been? Mom asked. You've been gone for nearly an hour. An hour? That's all? I went to see Lucy and Josh. Well, sit down, Mom said. I knew you wouldn't be late for Christmas Eve dinner. And hey, it's almost your birthday. I have your favorite cake. That's nice, but I'm just so happy to be home, to spend Christmas and my birthday with you and Charlie, my awesome family. Mom squinted at me. Rick, do you have a fever or something? You're acting weird. Are you okay? Yeah, I said. I'm just excited to be back and... Well, sit down and stop yammering, Mom said. The food is getting cold. And so, it started out as the worst, most frightening Christmas ever, but it ended up as the best Christmas and birthday I ever had. My new attitude changed everything. I loved all my presents. I loved my birthday cake, although vanilla isn't my favorite. I loved playing video games with Charlie. I even shared my birthday candy with him. Because of my frightening adventures, because of the 3 ghosts and the horror they put me through, I was a changed kid. I was bubbling with happiness, and I loved Christmas, everything about it. I couldn't wait to get back to school after New Year's to show everyone the new Rick Scroogeman. That morning, I wore a new pair of straight-leg jeans and the red and black ski sweater Mom had knitted for me for Christmas. I felt good, and I wanted to look good. And wouldn't you know it, as I walked down the hall for the first time in the new year, there was Davy Pittman, bending over the water fountain. Yo, Davy, I called. I couldn't resist. I cupped my hands in the fountain, filled them with water, and sent a big splash to the front of Davy's jeans. Hey, no one is perfect. The end. And Merry Christmas to everyone, from Jeremy, the real R.L. Stine collector.